Everyone, welcome back to the KPC podcast. My name is Carson Turner.
And I'm Hannah Thurman.
Today we have a much more brief show on this Friday. We're going to be talking about our thoughts on President Trump's State of the Union speech he gave earlier this week, as well as just a couple other things that are happening in the news. So Hannah, you want to go ahead and start off with the State of the Union?
Okay, so Trump had a few things to talk about in his State of the Union that were kind of expected. A lot of things that he touched on, immigration, the MS-13 gang got a lot of momentum and attention. He also, when I first started watching it, because I admittedly forgot that it was on, I thought it had been on at a different time. Mm-hmm. And then, but when I started watching, he was talking about restriction drugs. And one of the first quotes that I got from that was that he said that one of his greatest priorities was to reduce the price of restriction drugs. So he talked a lot about that. He said prices will come down substantially, watch. So I thought that was, I agree with that. I mean, that has been a problem.
Wait, what is he reducing? Did you say prescription?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So like all the big
It's going to be cheaper for everyone?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a big one. A reminder that Ben Carson is still a person. Forgot that he was there, but they showed him in the audience.
I didn't
and
even see
I
him.
totally forgot that he was a person.
He
so
should
that's
be,
good.
Isn't he a doctor? Shouldn't he be helping people out? What's
well,
he
he's
doing?
he's in the administration as some probably irrelevant position. I don't know. But so he laid out a 4-pillar plan. He wants to move toward a merit-based immigration program. So his 4-pillar plan was that he wants to allow 1.8 million immigrants to come here, and education, high merit, over the 12-year period to become citizens. Mm-hmm. So it's not just immediately over 12 years.
Well, from what I understand, isn't that he's planning on letting in more people than like the Obama administration planned on letting in?
I don't know anything on that, but I thought that 1.8 sounded, I mean, it's a very high number.
Yeah.
But this thing is, it's over a 12-year period.
Oh,
so
okay,
granted, if he doesn't get the next 4 years in office,
right,
he does only have those 4 years to make that happen. Fully secure the border was his second, end the visa lottery, and then he wants to end chain migration. And I did not know of the visa lottery, but he had said that it was a program that randomly hands out green cards without any regard for skill, merit, or the safety of the American people. And so I kind of researched this, and PolitiFact, which is a winner of the Pulitzer Prize, kind of fact-checked it, and they were saying that they mischaracterized the program and that he failed to note that the individuals who come to the United States through this lottery program have to be vetted by the United States, and they also have to meet education and work criteria. And the criteria for that is that at least a high school education or its equivalent. They have to be defined as successful or have a 12-year course of formal elementary or secondary education, or 2 years of work experience within the past 5 years in an occupation that requires at least 2 years of training or experience to perform. So they said that that one was false on him, but I hadn't heard about that, but I think it's interesting. I mean, Joe Kennedy's response to it was interesting too. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I was going to say one thing that I thought was kind of funny, because you mentioned chain migration, and the other day, I don't remember who it was, some lady was on The View, and she was saying that like chain migration is a racist term because she thought it meant like you bring people in on chains or whatever,
and
not
it's just
like
bringing in your family.
Yeah, it's like a daisy chain of family members, and I thought that was really funny because the whole crowd was like cheering whenever she said it was racist, but it's like the whole room had no idea what was going on. Yeah. I guess a couple things that I've got for the State of the Union is that, so the ratings, according to CBS News, 75% of people approved of the speech. And as far as ratings go, they're higher. This is an article from the New York Times saying that his State of the Union ratings were higher than the Grammys, but they were not as high as the Clinton's first speech or Obama's first speech, which I thought was pretty interesting. I'm glad it beat the Grammys. I mean, it's not like that, it was going to take a lot. Yeah, but it's good to know that a lot of people were engaged in his speech. So a couple things that I really liked about the speech was that one story about the cop who adopted. The one kid, I really liked that. The North Korean refugee one was probably the best part of the entire speech. And I kind of liked that the word choice from Trump seemed much more unifying. It was much more Americans. He wasn't trying to separate people. A couple things I did not like was the length of it. It was very long, but I guess that's not a terrible thing.
Yeah, and I think we got script Trump. So
it
wasn't all over the place
yes.
I was worried it would be.
That part was very good. I like that he stuck to the script, and I'm glad that he at least waited. The only thing that had come out is that he falsely claimed the ratings of it, which I'm glad he didn't just go to Twitter and start tweeting things up, because that kept his credibility at least a little bit longer. I think that's the problem.
And it was expected, and I think that he would claim that because it's kind of his thing.
So I'm just glad there wasn't a Twitter storm, at least from what I didn't see. One thing I thought that was weird that I didn't necessarily like is, I understand that the Democrats, they don't like Trump, and they were going to sit down through the stuff that he's implemented, but he said something like unemployment rate is an all-time low. They didn't stand for that, so it's like, do you not like the economy? Or like, unemployment rate for African Americans is an all-time low, and they didn't stand for that either. It's like, do you not like that African Americans are working? But I get that they're trying to do this whole protesting thing, but I think it really did tarnish their image. Because I know from previous States of the Unions, especially with the Obama administration, Republicans still stood, even though they disagreed with everything President Obama had said. And then one thing that I did not like, which you told me about this morning, was Tomi Lahren comments about the State of the Union.
The good stuff. Let's get into that.
Yeah, I mean, she obviously reserves the right to free speech regardless of who she works for. I don't think she should not have said, or I think she still has the right to say whatever she wants to say, but it kind of puts on a bad look for other people who work at Fox News or maybe are on the right form of the political spectrum, because
super unprofessional.
Yeah, especially going down to like middle school level language, it just wasn't a good look.
Let's list that. She called him not only a nasty little ginger, but also referred to him as that little limp dick. So
that's Joe Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah, and I watched about half of his speech. It wasn't the best speech that I had seen, but I don't think those comments really stacked up with who I think he is as a person. But
and she did apologize for the comments, saying that they were inappropriate. She took full responsibility for that. She got too upset. She apologized. And then she also compared Joe Kennedy to pre-Caitlyn Bruce Jenner. So there's
Bruce
that
Jenner.
too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I guess she still calls
pre-Caitlyn.
Yeah.
So yeah.
In her words, not mine.
Yeah. Of course. But yeah, that's really all we've got for the State of the Union. And then also a little clip that came out this morning about the father who was
Three of his daughters were abused by the former USA Gymnastics coach, Larry Nassar. And he this morning he had asked the judge residing over the case if he could have 5 minutes in a room with that demon. Yeah, and she said, no, you don't ask me that. We can't do that. And then he took a second and then charged.
Just went after him. Yeah, and from the thumbnail and from this article, it says that the attorney was able to get him out of the way. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to land any hits on him. And this kind of made me think, I remember back in the 17 and maybe the 1800s, they used to allow duels where, you guys could, have a duel if you both disagree on something. I feel like this is an extreme case where maybe they could have brought that back for some reason, or
we should.
But
I mean, this man is 265 women, I believe, have come forward as victims or survivors of his abuse. And I watched a lot of the videos of these strong women coming forward, and it was so sad and disturbing, but also so empowering that they can stare at him and look at him in the eye and demand an apology, tell him, you will not ruin me, like, I am stronger than this. But it was, and then he wrote actually something to the judge, and I watched a video on that the judge had kind of read it, because people were kind of saying like, oh, this judge is not giving him like the benefit of, not even the benefit of the doubt, but just like considering. And I completely agree. I think she's doing a wonderful, wonderful job with the case. But in this letter, he was saying how hard it is to, you know, listen to these women come forward with this. And I think that he should have to listen to every second of everything.
Absolutely. And well, another thing too that, with this specific video that just came out, what kind of makes me concerned is, you know, it's like the daughters, they've kind of been through enough, now they kind of have to worry. I wonder what the father is going to get, if he's going to be punished for what he had done. Of course, everyone agrees with what he did, but from a legal standpoint, you can't just go up and try to assault somebody. But
and I agree with the whole thing. Like, I mean, you can hear his daughters cry in the background. I mean, they've been through enough, and I can't imagine like seeing their dad being on the ground with 3 officers on top of him makes them feel any better in this situation. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that, if anything happens at all.
There was some question about the antics of this clip. Cal said it looked almost staged. So if he has any conspiracy theories that he ever wants to share on this show, he is more than welcome to give us his Alex Jones take on
that.
Any conspiracies. No. But I think that's all we've got for today's podcast, unless you have any last minute things you want to say.
I do not.
All right, guys, I hope you have a great Friday, great rest of the weekend. We'll be back on Monday for another episode of the KPC podcast.